Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most iconic showdowns in bodybuilding history. The 1979 Mr. Olympia competition featuring legends like Mentzer and Zane. So, whether you're a longtime bodybuilding fan or new to the sport, buckle up because we're about to explore how this epic face-off shaped not just two careers but the entire heritage of bodybuilding. The late 1970s marked a pivotal era for bodybuilding. The sport had moved from the fringes to the mainstream, thanks in part to larger-than-life figures like Arnold Schwarzenegger and the documentary Pumping Iron. As the 1979 Mr. Olympia competition approached, there was an electric sense of anticipation in the air. It wasn't just another year. It was the stage for a philosophical clash that would influence bodybuilding for years to come. The competition was set to be held at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium in Columbus, Ohio. With the growing media coverage and a new generation of aspiring bodybuilders looking up to their heroes, the stage was all set for a memorable event. The contest promised more than the display of muscle and mass. It was an ideological battleground where different visions of what bodybuilding could and should be were pitted against each other. But beyond the broader narratives, two men stood at the center of it all, like Mentzer and Zane. They didn't just represent different training regimes or aesthetic ideals. They symbolized contrasting philosophies of what a bodybuilder could embody. This wasn't just a competition. It was a clash of titans that would reverberate through the annals of bodybuilding history. Like Mentzer was the epitome of intensity, both in physique and philosophy. Known for his heavy-duty training approach, Mentzer advocated for high-intensity, shorter workout sessions. For him, it wasn't about the time spent in the gym, but the effort expended during that time. His muscular bulk and sheer size reflected his approach, raw, intense, and unyielding. Mentzer's philosophy was grounded in a rational, almost scientific approach. Inspired by the principles of Arthur Jones, he believed in pushing the body to its limits in shorter periods for maximum muscle growth. This was a radical departure from the more time-consuming routines popular at the time. Mentzer was more than a bodybuilder. He was a thinker who challenged the status quo with his writings and teachings, inspiring a generation of bodybuilders to think critically about their training. In contrast, Zane embodied the aesthetic ideal. His physique was often described as sculptural, a harmonious balance of size, symmetry, and proportion. Where Mentzer was a force of nature, Zane was an artist, carefully crafting his body to represent a classical ideal. His focus was less on sheer mass and more on the overall visual impact. Zane's philosophy took a more holistic approach, emphasizing not just the workouts but also elements like nutrition, flexibility, and mental wellness. His training routines were meticulously designed for balance and proportion, often involving a broader range of exercises and rep ranges to sculpt every muscle group finely. Unlike Mentzer's all-out approach, Zane believed in the value of moderation and balance, both in training and in life. As the 1979 Mr. Olympia competition neared, the tension was palpable. Here were two men, both at the pinnacle of their careers, with philosophies as contrasting as their physiques. Mentzer, the powerhouse, was set to challenge Zane, the incumbent champion and the epitome of aesthetic bodybuilding. The stage was set for an epic showdown, one that would pose a fundamental question: what should the ideal bodybuilder look like, and what values should he embody? Mike Mentzer was no stranger to discipline, and his preparation for the 1979 Mr. Olympia reflected his commitment to his heavy-duty philosophy. He buckled down with short but brutal sessions, lifting heavier weights with fewer repetitions. Utilizing principles from Arthur Jones, Mentzer aimed to reach muscular failure in each set, believing that this was the path to maximum muscle growth. Beyond the gym, Mentzer was deeply involved in the intellectual aspects of bodybuilding. He wrote articles, gave interviews, and even lectured, using each platform to champion his philosophy. This was a man on a mission, and that mission was to not only win Mr. Olympia, but to redefine the very essence of the sport. Zane's preparation was a study in contrast. Unlike Mentzer, his approach was not about maximizing the load, but about optimizing the form and balance of each muscle group. Leading up to the competition, Zane followed a meticulous regimen that covered not just intense weight training but also included cardio, stretching exercises, and a carefully curated diet to minimize body fat and highlight muscle definition. Zane also invested time in posing practice, understanding that bodybuilding is not just about building muscle but also about showcasing it in the most artistic and impactful way possible. This was a period of fine-tuning for Zane, refining each detail to defend his title as Mr. Olympia. While Mentzer and Zane were undoubtedly the stars, The 1979 Mr. Olympia had its share of remarkable athletes who added intrigue to the event. Competitors like Robbie Robinson, Boyer Coe, and Danny Padillo were also making their marks, each bringing their unique style and philosophy to the stage. In the months leading up to the competition, several significant events caught the bodybuilding world's attention. Arnold Schwarzenegger's transition to acting was generating buzz, indirectly spotlighting bodybuilding as a whole. The sport was also receiving more media attention, with magazines and even television shows beginning to cover these superhuman athletes. Each of these elements contributed to making the 1979 Mr. Olympia one of the most eagerly awaited events in bodybuilding history. When the judge's decision was announced, Zane retaining his title as Mr. Olympia, the reaction was mixed. Fans of Zane celebrated the vindication of his aesthetic approach to bodybuilding. Yet many in the crowd who were captivated by Mentzer's size and intensity felt that he had been robbed. Whispers and murmurs spread across the auditorium. Discussions ignited on who truly deserved to win, and debates over scoring criteria erupted. The referee's decision wasn't just a routine part of the competition. It became a point of controversy that would fuel debates within the bodybuilding community for years to come. Zane was not just a bodybuilder. He was an excellent poser. His ability to present his muscles in the most flattering way was arguably unmatched. In a competition where presentation matters a lot, Zane's posing skills gave him an edge over Mentzer, who, while powerful, could not match Zane's artistic presentation. Zane was the defending Mr. Olympia, having won the title in the previous years, 1977 and 1978. This put him in a favorable position, as judges and the audience alike had a certain level of expectation based on his previous performances. Mentzer was challenging not just a competitor but an established ideal represented by Zane. Bodybuilding is a subjective sport, and judges bring their own perspectives and biases into their scoring. In 1979, the judging seemed to lean towards a more balanced, aesthetic physique over sheer size and mass, which naturally disadvantaged Mentzer. However, the loss to Zane led Mentzer to reevaluate his techniques and even intensify his intellectual pursuits within the bodybuilding community. He became more prolific as a writer, penning articles and books that elaborated on his training philosophy. While the defeat could have been a setback, Mentzer turned it into a stepping stone to become an influential thought leader in bodybuilding. Despite never clinching the Mr. Olympia title, his legacy has remained strong, and his influence is still felt in the sport today. So there it is, the 1979 Mr. Olympia, a contest that shaped not just Mentzer's and Zane's careers, but also the entire landscape of bodybuilding. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Until next time, stay pumped.